And what a beautiful day to be in this place we call home, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Rutherford County. It is a great day to have all of you here. I'm Mayor Tommy Bragg. I'm absolutely thrilled to have this turnout today. All of you who have made and meant so much to the city of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. It is an outstanding tribute to you to have you here today, and I'm so pleased that you are here. We are going to have a flag-raising ceremony by the Murfreesboro Police Department and the Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue Department honor guards. And I'm going to ask each of you, if you will, to please stand as we have our flag-raising ceremony. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order! Oh! At this time, we will raise the Bicentennial flag for the city of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Let's give our honor guard a round of applause. Thank you. You may be seated. Again, it is a wonderful day to come together as a city and a county to celebrate a process which over the years led to this area becoming the county seat of Rutherford County and being known as Murfreesboro. As I went back through what I could find of the history of Murfreesboro, I guess as mayor I always thought, I'm going to have something, and we're going to have to do something to celebrate this bicentennial. What will we do? So after a little bit of research and a little head scratching, I thought, well, we could celebrate a day. Well, it was difficult to find a day. So I said, well, we'll celebrate a bill or something that the legislature did. Well, I found a lot of things that the legislature did. So I said, well, we'll find something that the city did. Well, I found a lot of things that the city did. So I said, a day is not going to be appropriate. And in fact, a month is not going to be appropriate. So what I determined to do, and I ask you to help me do this in the next 13 months, is to celebrate our bicentennial from October of 2011 to October of 2012 at least, and come together as a community to really look back and surround ourselves not only with the history, but with a thankfulness and a faithfulness for what has gone before us and what can be a part of our heritage for the future. October 17th of 1811, a bill was signed in the legislature which set up a committee to find a more central location for the county seat of Rutherford County. At the time, it was in Jefferson, Tennessee. There were lots sold up there. There were businesses running up there. And the people in Jefferson really did not want to see the county seat moved. But a number of people wanted a more centrally located location for the county seat. And so that's how we ended up with Murfreesboro as the location after all these years. So I would like today to call on all citizens of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County to help us in the next 13 months as we celebrate our heritage and, as I say, the aspirations and accomplishments of those who came before, so that we may find our way for the future to make this a better place. I want to recognize a few people who are here, and I want you to know that all of you are special to the city of Murfreesboro and to our county. The first group I would like to recognize are our current council members. Vice Mayor Chris Bratcher, if you'll hold your applause. I know, Chris, you were going to get a big round of applause, but if we'll hold the applause. Toby Gilley, Ron Washington, Shane McFarland, and Madeline Scales Harris. Would you please stand and just be recognized? Please hold your applause. But thank you. Doug Young could not be here. He wanted to be here, but had a previous engagement, and I apologize for Doug for not being here. We have a number of former council members who are here, and I would like to recognize them if I may. Of course, Richard Reeves is on the stage, but I'm going to ask them to stand and be recognized, and please hold your applause. Richard, please stand. Ted Beach, Mary Huda, Martin McCullough, Bill Shacklett, Beth O'Brien, and David Edwards. Did I miss anyone? Mary Scales is here. Mary, I'm sorry I did not see you. I knew Madeline was. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. Thanks all for being here. Our other past members still living are Roger Haley, Kevin Wax, Robert Rose, and Jack Ross. Our county mayor, Ernest Burgess. Have I seen Ernest this morning? Is Ernest here? And we have members of the Rutherford County Commission that are here, and I'll ask you to stand, please, and be recognized. Members of our county commission. Shanto is here. Who else did I see? Robert Stevens is here. Thank you. And Joyce Ely. Thank you, Joyce. Thanks, all of you, for being here. Our City School Board Chairman is here, Mary Wade, and are there other members of our elected City School Board? Others? Mary, thank you for being here. This will be a little bit larger group, but would all members of city boards and commissions and their family members please stand at this time, if you will. Thank you all for being here. We have Bicentennial Planning Committee members here. If you would please stand and be recognized, along with all city department heads and city employees. If you would stand at this time. From Middle Tennessee State University, we have Provost Brad Bartell. Brad, if you would please stand. And Chris Massaro, who is our athletic director at MTSU. Please stand. Thank you all. Chris, thank you. Thank you. We're very pleased, as a mayor, to have had very few city managers in the time that we have been under the city manager form of government. And at this time, I would like to ask all family members of former city managers please to stand and be recognized. Mr. McCullough, thank you. Martin McCullough, thank you. Laws. Bart Fight is here, I believe, with his dad, Clyde Fight, who served us so very well. Some very, very, very important people got us to this day in Murfreesboro. So I ask you at this time, if you are a member of a family who was a founding family of Murfreesboro, if you would please stand and be recognized, and it is your choice if you are a founding family member. Please stand and be recognized. If it had not been for you, we would not be here today. Thank you. I do want to mention one more person who is very special, Ms. Murfreesboro, Jeannie Bragg, my wife, who's right down here on the front. I'm not sure if we have any elected state officials who are here with us today, but from the judiciary or from our state House or State Senate, I don't believe I've seen anyone, but I certainly want to recognize them and thank them for their efforts through the years to make Rutherford County and Murfreesboro a special place. We have had a lot of good things happen, and I'm very appreciative of that. We are going to spend a little time in the next 13 months talking about our heritage and what has happened and what we want to do in the beginning. And let me just mention briefly kind of the way I had hoped that we would be able to celebrate. We're not trying to create any new events, but there will be some new events. And we're not trying to wear out our welcome, as it were. But I wanted to make sure that as we went through the 13 months, we got to talk about things that were important that got Murfreesboro and Rutherford County where we are today. So this month we began, as we're kicking it off, with our heritage. And Lanny Goodwin with our Parks and Recreation Department has been very kind to help us put together that month and our heritage with the resources of our Parks and Recreation Department. We're also calling on our Rutherford County Convention and Visitors Bureau, Mona Herring, to help us in putting their resources together to help us plan and to celebrate each month. And then we also have our Heritage Center and the MTSU Center for Historic Preservation, and Ann Leslie Owens, I think, is here, and Dr. Carol Van West, who is helping us put that together. So I'm very pleased to have those resources available as our steering committee and our committee members for each month work on what they have going. In November, we plan on working with our beginnings, and John Hood is helping us with that. Thank you, Representative John Hood. our teachers in December, in January, our healers, in February, our people, in March, our military, and I believe Don Witherspoon is here with us today, and I appreciate Don helping us. I was going to call it our soldiers, but he's a Marine, and he didn't want to be called a soldier. He wanted to be called a Marine. So, Don, we're calling it our military. In April, our faith with Leanne Walker. In May, our arts with Terry Womack. June, our rivers, roads, rails, and trails with Carol Van West. July, our music with Chris Schaffner. August, our stories with Candy Joyce. September, our work, Mona Herring. And October of 2012, as we finish up, we'll talk about our future, and former State Senator Andy Womack is helping us work through that. So I want to thank all of those people who have taken a leadership role in our steering committees. And one I left out, Dr. Phyllis Washington, who is helping us with our people in February. So I do appreciate those people on our Bicentennial Steering Committee who have taken on a theme for each month. At this time, I'm going to ask some very popular young men to speak. If you look behind me, you can see those very popular young men. I thought I'd start off with a laugh. How did it work? Richard Reeves served on the Murfreesboro City Council for 22 years. As a mayor of Murfreesboro, during his many years on the council, Mayor Reeves oversaw the acquisition of the final parcels of the city's now prosperous Gateway area. During his service and under his leadership, Murfreesboro prepared and laid the groundwork for the economic prosperity we enjoy today. The Greenway, Main Street, Barfield Crescent Park, Sportscom, Patterson Park, the list goes on and on, all part of the experience we enjoy today living in Murfreesboro. With his lovely wife, Joan, Richard has, for the past 10 years, done what many former mayors do, return their focus to private business, creating jobs, and being a great grandfather, businessman, and friend. If you look Richard's name up on the internet today, the most prominent mention will be how much money he has donated to someone's political campaign. But Richard has made his public donation to Murfreesboro and Rutherford County by working to make the city government the best it could be during his tenure of office. All of us today have benefited from Richard's work and his love of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. It is my pleasure at this time to introduce Richard Reeves, former mayor of Murfreesboro, who will speak about Murfreesboro's heritage. Mayor Reeves, please.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bragg. I was real interested in knowing what I was going to speak about. I want to spend just a couple of minutes. First of all, I want to thank you for including me in this. This is a great honor and a great time in our city's history, 200th anniversary. Just close your eyes for a second and think about this. 200 years ago in this spot right here, this area was covered in wildlife, turkeys, deer, geese, ducks, all kind of wildlife. And you know, that hadn't changed a bit. That's about the only thing that hasn't made a dramatic change in our county and city. We still do have a lot of wildlife. There have been so many achievements. You could stand up here for hours on end and talk about all the different achievements that have taken place over the many years that Murfreesboro has progressed. And it's been due to people with vision and people that had passion for this community. In serving my 22 years on city council, I can truly say that the people that I served with, there were two reasons that I feel like they served. Number one is they loved people. They wanted to do things to help people. And number two, they loved this community. and they wanted to do whatever it took to make this a better place. And that's the same thing that's going on now with our mayor and council and all the staff and all the people involved. Mayor Bragg, you mentioned past council members and present council members, but I had a distinct pleasure of serving with some of our council members and mayors that have gone on. And I feel called to mention their name because they contributed so much to this city and to this community. And I had the great pleasure of serving with Mayor Westbrooks and Mayor Joe B. Jackson. I had the great pleasure of serving with Councilman Don Wiseman and Councilman Woody Robinson and my good friend John Pittard. They all had their hearts wrapped around this city and gave their valuable time and service to our community. We would not be where we were today, Mayor Bragg, if it had not been for Congressman Bart Gordon. There's so much that you'll never know, and I worked with him, and the other mayors worked with him. We would not have probably Oakland's mansion and Discovery Center and the trails and a lot of the things that were done. You didn't get near enough credit, and I'm just going to thank him again today. The representatives and the senators that we have representing us were great to work with also. During my 4 years as mayor, I can truly say that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the opportunity. I'm just glad that Mayor Bragg is in those shoes and continuing to move this city forward. I am a fifth-generation Murfreesborian. I didn't know this till about a year ago. We have found, and I was talking to Susan Daniel a minute ago before this started, we have found that the Reeves Cemetery is out in Las Casas, Tennessee, and my great-great-grandfather had a land grant of 1,100 acres, had 12 children, and I guess he needed 12 children to farm 1,100 acres, but my son and I discovered this just recently. We have been in business in this community for many years as a private business, and I hope that small business will always continue to prosper and do well in this community. I had one thing, Mayor Bragg, since I've got this opportunity, I think that would be a great opportunity if we maybe ask our Board of Education to come up with something during our 13 months to have a program, a curriculum of maybe just a couple of hours or whatever for our school children. Let them know about our history. You may already have this in mind, but I think it would be great to let them know where we came from, where we are, and where we're going. I'm so glad to see everyone here today. I haven't seen some of you in a long time. It's been a great pleasure serving this city, and it's my pleasure to say thank you for all the support I had in those years of public service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. President. Many of you, as I am, are a cousin of Richard's, whether real or intended. And Richard meant a lot. As all of you know, in government, things don't sometimes run very quickly. But if a mayor looks like they're doing a good job, it's because probably the mayor before did all the work and passed the baton to you when he was ahead in the race. And that's the way I look at Richard and Joe B. Jackson and Mayor Westbrooks, going all the way back to Andrew L. Todd, John Holloway, Ransom Jones, Jennings Jones. I mean, if I look back, Being a mayor is like running a relay and someone passes you the baton, and I want to thank you, Richard, for passing it to me way ahead when you did. Thank you. Here's someone who has really made the city of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County proud, someone who has spent a lifetime in public service and always taken good care of us. Born and raised in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Bart Gordon has ventured far from his Middle Tennessee roots. I can't help but mention that his first exposure to politics came after his high school graduation in 1967, when he worked on my father's unsuccessful congressional campaign. That experience led to his interest in politics and later, I'm sure, pushed him to run for Congress. Following his graduation from our beloved MTSU in 1971, Bart earned his law degree while serving in the Army Reserves. He practiced law in Murfreesboro before entering politics, eventually becoming Dean of Tennessee's congressional delegation. Representing a mostly rural district in a now Republican-leaning state, Gordon was famous for his ability to work with members of the opposite party in passing bipartisan measures, something seldom heard from today. Gordon was a proponent of a more rigorous curriculum for math, science, and technology, education, and investing more money in research and development so that the United States could remain academically and economically competitive. He is also famous for investing more money in his district so that Murfreesboro and Rutherford County could remain academically and economically competitive. Our Discovery Center, Oakland's Mansion, Stones River National Battlefield, Stones River Greenway, Middle Tennessee State University, and a host of recreational, historical, and sorely needed road projects are a legacy to the service and the perseverance of Congressman Bart Gordon. It is an honor and a great privilege today to introduce to you Congressman Bart Gordon, who is going to speak to us about Murfreesboro and Rutherford County from a national perspective and why Murfreesboro has flourished. Congressman Gordon, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mayor Bragg, for that very kind introduction, but more importantly, I want to thank you for your 24-hour day, 7 days a week service as mayor, and Jeannie, thank you for loaning him to us for that. And you're right, your father was my inspiration for running for Congress, and I want to just take this opportunity to thank all of you once again for giving me the opportunity to serve you in the United States Congress. It's an experience that I will always cherish, and I very much appreciate it. And Tommy, you mentioned being dean of the delegation. I'll have to tell you a quick story. I guess it was about 2 years ago, Lamar Alexander and I were working together on something called the American Competes Act. And Lamar asked me to come over to the Senate and tell the senators what we were doing in the House. And when I got over there, he introduced me to his colleagues by saying, "This is my friend, Bart Gordon. He's the dean of our Tennessee congressional delegation." Then he quickly added, "Dean doesn't mean he's the smartest, just means he's been here the longest." That really did happen. Well, Kent Seiler is here, and Kent will tell all of you that I have difficulty enjoying the moment. I'm always thinking, okay, what's next and how do we plan for this? But it would seem like that on a 200th anniversary, we should savor the moment. Okay, that's enough. Now I want to talk to you briefly about the future. You know, it took 185 years for Murfreesboro to have a population of 55,000, and only 15 years to double that. And so, in many ways, I'm going to predict to you that we'll see almost as much change in the next 20 years as we have seen in the last 200 years. In 2005, Thomas Friedman wrote a book called The World is Flat, where he said because the computer, the internet, a revolution in software, less expensive air travel, cell phones, etc., that we have become a much more connected world. And as he would say, more people could suddenly compete, connect, and collaborate with more people, from more different places, for less money, with greater ease than ever before in the history of humankind. And a quick example of that is that there are approximately 5 billion cell phones in the world right now, and 7 billion people. And with all that figure, that keeps in, well, take into consideration that my 10-year-old daughter, who asks for one every day, still doesn't have one. So if you take all the little ones out, 5 billion cell phones for 7 billion people. Now, and I think this interconnection that we're seeing now, it's much more dramatic than one a few years ago, more in much of our lifetime, but that was the interstate. When the interstate came through here, and I want to give you some statistics on what happened and how things changed there. If you go back to 1950, before the interstate, Murfreesboro had a population of about 13,000. Now we have a population of 110,000. Shelbyville, just a little bit south of us, a little bit further away from the interstate, had a population in 1950 of less than 9,500. Today they have a population of 16,000. Go back a little bit further up from us, Cookeville, which was on the interstate in 1950, had a population of about 4,000. Now, of 6,000. Now they have a population of 26,000. But Sparta, again, just a little bit further, away from the interstate, in 1950 had a population of 4,000. Now they have a population of 5,000. And the further away you go from the interstate, places like Gainesboro, McMinnville, either they have been stagnant or their population has actually gone down. And so that is that is a sort of an interconnection from the past. Now, this interconnection now is even hyper-connected. Thomas Friedman has written another book, and this one's called What That Used to Be Us. And in it, he points out over just the last 6 years, these things have occurred. Facebook didn't even exist for most people. Twitter was a sound. Cloud was something in the sky. 3G was a parking space. Applications were something that you sent to college. And Skype was a typo. So things are moving pretty fast. And so how do we plan for the future now in this going from a connected world to a hyper-connected world to what over the next 20 years are going to be a super-connected world? Well, we can reflect back on Shakespeare, gave us some advice in his play, The Tempest, when he said, what's past is prologue. And if you go into our National Archives, over the top of the door, it says also, what's past is prologue. And what that means is that history influences and sets context for the present. And I would say that it also helps to provide a roadmap for the future. And so as we look at our past, let's see, what has made us prosperous here. Well, first of all, we were lucky to have good geography. The geographic center of Tennessee, close to an interstate, and within an hour's drive of 75% of the world's market. So we were lucky to have that geography. Leadership. We've had very fortunate to have forward-looking mayors, and Richard, I think Tommy might one day join that group, as well as the city councils, our city managers, but it's more than that. Our Chamber of Commerce, the business community, we've all been in sync. Our civic clubs, again, everybody has been in sync, working together. Education. We've always prided ourselves on our education, from pre-K to PhD, thanks to MTSU here. And also a quality of life. Our greenways, our parks, our recreation and cultural activities have helped to create really an ecosystem here that made the best and brightest of Murfreesboro want to stay or come back, and made folks like Kent Seiler, who came to MTSU, want to stay here, and others that have come in for different reasons. So we've been very fortunate to be able to bring back those best and brightest. So now, if we look toward the future, reviewing the past, what can we see? Well, first of all, our geography isn't going to change, but it really doesn't matter that much anymore because the interstate is still next door, but the real interstate now is the internet, which brings the whole world closer. And as I said, there are 7 billion people in the world now, And of those 7 billion, half of those that are working make less than $2 a day. We certainly don't want to compete on wages, which means that we have to be an innovative nation and an innovative Murfreesboro, which means education. So we've got to invest in our education system, and that's more than just building buildings. It's our teachers. And it's not just money, it's also the community being committed to education. And we have to invest in our infrastructure, roads so we don't choke on ourselves, mass transit both here in Murfreesboro and to Nashville. And we've also got to invest in our water systems, our sewer systems, broadband, our electric system. They all have to be able to plug in to the electric grid, because that's going to mean the difference between smart communities and those communities that aren't smart, and that's going to make the difference in prosperity. And finally, we've got to continue to make sure that we're investing in our quality of life. Again, green spaces, recreation. We've got to have cultural activities so that the best and brightest will continue to want to stay here and raise their families, because it would be good for them if it was good for them. So in conclusion, let me just suggest that as we celebrate the past, we also make plans for the future. Thank you.
Bart was always generous to us, and those of us who went to Washington to see him, he always had time, no matter what was going on, to take care of us. If we needed a passport in 25 minutes, he could get us one. And it was a great opportunity and a great 26 years that we had Bart. Let's give Bart and Richard another round of applause. I do want to mention our city manager. It's an important position in Murfreesboro city government, and as I always say, you pay your taxes for the services you receive. And I think one of the best bargains in the country today is the services that the city of Murfreesboro receives for the tax dollars that we pay. And I'm going to ask Rob to stand up, Rob Lyons, and let's give Rob Lyons a round of applause. We're tremendously pleased and fortunate that he is willing to serve as our city manager. Many of us know that a city manager's tenure of service with a particular city on average is about 2.5 years. Well, Rob, you've got at least 6 more months to go here. But I'm thinking that perhaps you may make it a lot longer than that. We're very pleased, and certainly his staff at the Parks and Recreation Department have done a great job in putting this together. Nate Williams, Angela Jackson, others who have worked on this, Lanny Goodwin, who is the director of our Parks and Rec. Let's give them a round of applause for what's going on today. It's going to be my pleasure now to introduce our bicentennial cake. So I'm going to ask you to stand up. And before I do that, I want to make mention of something. Everyone, please stand. This is kind of like church. We're blessed. Many people bless us. Many people look after us, and we need to thank many people. So I would like for you to take this opportunity to look to the people to your left and right and in front of you and back of you, and look them in the eye, shake their hand, and say thank you for making Murfreesboro a special place. I do think sometimes we forget how much we depend on each other, and thank you for making this a special moment. I'm going to ask all our current and former city council members to help me do a job. Over here is our bicentennial cake, and I need somebody to help remove the veil over the cake. Our bicentennial cake has been done by a local celebrity, Jay Qualls. He is featured in the most recent issue of the Murfreesboro magazine. You can read about him and how he goes about making occasions special with culinary delights from cake. And so I think you'll have to get behind it too, some of you. We're really pleased. And Jay, I'm going to ask you to come up here in just a minute when the cake gets removed, or when the veil gets removed, and talk to us a little bit about the cake. But do you want to help our council members, if you will, remove the veil on the Bicentennial cake? Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about the cake?
Well, first of all, thank you all so much for all your support. I've had a lot of amazing things happen to me over the past year, and I'm so proud to be a part and a citizen of Murfreesboro. And I never dreamed 25 years ago when I attended MTSU that I would have the opportunity to stand here and truly let this be one of the highlights of my life. Truly, I have been so blessed in so many ways, and Murfreesboro and Rutherford County has supported me more than I could ever imagine, and I've lived my dream beyond anything that I ever expected to do. So what I did was I was given a list from each committee of the things that represented our city. The bucket, I think everybody knows the bucket at Cannonsburg, that's represented on top. Obviously our education, which is the apple up on top. Our military, which is the camo with the soldiers camouflaged and stenciled into that. Our faith, I represented our faith, our music, through stained glass with all sugar. The top of our courthouse, which is so recognizable from everywhere in this city. When you look around, it makes me feel like I'm getting close to home when I see it. Obviously, I wanted to represent our roads, rails, and trails, and our parks and recreation, because we all enjoy our greenways so much. So I did and the arts at the same time. So I did all the hand painting on this layer, which is going to represent that. With the Stones River, the bridges, the walking trails that we enjoy so much and that is so beautiful and that we bike on. We're so blessed and lucky to have those things right here in our own backyard. The brick layer, there's nothing stronger than brick, just like what we're standing on. It's the foundation which makes us whole and steady and sturdy. And it's building a strong foundation is what continues to make us to grow as people and to grow as a community. And then last and not least, by any stretch of the means, is our people. I wanted to be able to represent our families, our children, our parents, our grandparents, and I was very generic in that because I wanted to not leave anyone out. And then, of course, we have to have our celebration banner showing this great monumental occasion of 200 years. And again, I had a professor at MTSU tell me, I've said it before, do what you know and know what you do. And I realized 7 years ago that I needed to be making cakes for a living. And so I know how to make cakes, and I have been fortunate enough to do some incredible things for the city and for MTSU, and I'm very, very grateful, and there's a lot more to come for me, and I hope that I represent Murfreesboro well, nationally, maybe even internationally. And thank you all again for your support. I really and truly appreciate it, and thank you, Mayor Bragg and Nate.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much.
The cake will be on display in the rotunda of the City Hall for as long as we can get it to hold up. So we look forward to that opportunity, and I hope you'll bring your family and friends to take a look at our Bicentennial cake. Jay, thank you so very much for doing all of that. That's special. We also will be able to eat cake as we close, but I first wanted to mention that we are, somebody's got to pay for this, selling a commemorative Bicentennial coin through our Convention Visitors Bureau at several locations, and today in the tents at the edge of the rotunda back here, that bicentennial coin will be available. It will make a great Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween, you name it, gift. And I encourage you all, please, to help us support the city of Murfreesboro and the Bicentennial. I want to thank our speakers again, thank each and every one of you, our police and fire department, our police and fire and rescue department, and here they come to help us go over and eat cake. Thank you all for being here.